Hey everybody, welcome to day 10 of my 12 days of Cricut Christmas crafts with Debbie O'Neill, and today's project is a one-size-fits-all ornament box. I have taken a box shape in Design Space from Sweet Boxes, and I have edited the file to fit the size that I wanted, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And I've also altered some of the shapes using the slice tool in Design Space, so I'll show you how to do that. We're going to be working with cardstock and acetate today, so let's get started. All right, let's talk supplies to make our ornament box. The first thing you'll need is we need some adhesive. So I do not recommend you use a regular tape runner for this because you want your box to be extremely sturdy and to hold your ornament, and people will be opening and closing the box, so you want to make sure that it's sturdy. So I use a double-sided sticky tape. This is score tape is what I use. I'll link it up in the description of the video. You can also use other brands of a double-sided sticky tape. You can also use a liquid glue if you want. I just don't like to wait for the liquid glue to dry when I'm making boxes, and this is what I use every time I make boxes with my Cricut machine or any other 3D objects that I make with my Cricut. I typically use this score tape. Okay, so you need adhesive. And then the other thing is you're going to need, this box of course has score lines on it, so you're going to need your scoring tool. So this is the Cricut scoring Stylus, and this is for use in the Cricut Explore machines. You can also use it in the Cricut Maker machine. But Cricut Maker recently came out with a scoring wheel, which is phenomenal because it gives you more in-depth indentation where it does the score line, and there is a 0-1 tip that comes with the housing, and you just can hit the plunger here and remove this, and then there is a 0-2 adapter that fits on here super easy, just like that. And the 0-2 has 2 scoring lines, and you would use that for other specialty materials that you might be scoring. And but if you have a Cricut Maker owner, you need to get a scoring wheel. I highly recommend it. It makes life so much easier, and I'll link this up in the description of the video. So you'll need your scoring devices for your Explorer or Cricut Maker machines. And then I like to have the Cricut Spatula handy when I get ready to remove my pieces from my Cricut mat. So you'll need that. And then, of course, we're going to need some paper. So I'm using the Cricut Deluxe paper. This is the Nordic Christmas paper. I just think it's really pretty and beautiful colors. So you need 3 pieces of double-sided cardstock or pattern paper. Now Cricut's pattern paper is not thin. It has a lot of weight to it, so it holds up really well. All of the Deluxe cardstock is pattern paper is like that from Cricut, and so I highly recommend that if you are starting out with paper crafting that you get some of the Cricut paper. It comes in a lot of different patterns in the Cricut shop, and it's a good quality paper when you're making boxes in particular. Okay, so you'll need to pick 3 patterns of cardstock pattern paper, and I am using these 3, so we'll see that. And then you're going to need some acetate that's going to close in the window that's in our box, and I'm going to use the Cricut Foil Acetate. This is the metallic sampler. It comes in a bunch of different packs, but I'm going to use the one that's kind of this light silver stripe is the one I'm going to use. It's kind of hard to see. There you go. So I'm going to be using this, and then of course you're going to need a Cricut mat. I'm just going to use the light grip Cricut mat. Mine is still very sticky. It's almost new. So I'm going to be using this. You may decide you want to use a green Cricut mat, and that's perfectly fine too. And then of course you'll need your Cricut Explorer or Cricut Maker machine. All right, let's get started. So for the ornament box, we're going to be using a image set that's called Sweet Tooth Boxes. So I'm on my Design Space screen. I'm going to come over here into Images, and we'll do a cartridge search for Sweet Tooth Boxes, and then the images are going to pop up. Now I did want to point out to you that Cricut does have a cartridge handbook. Look at help.cricut.com's /handbook. You will come up with the Cricut cartridge library, okay? And it's broken down into cartridge library and Cricut Access content. So you can toggle between those two. If you look at Cricut Library, it has it divided up. Let me scroll up here real quick. It has it divided up so that it gives you the image name set. It tells you if it's included in Cricut Access or not. So it says yes or no. Like a child's year is not included in Cricut Access, but 9 months is. Okay, so, and then it lets you know if that particular image set includes any fonts with it, because a lot of the image sets did have fonts. And then it lets you know if there is a handbook for that particular image set. And of course, it'll let you open it up into Design Space, and then there's a link if you want to purchase it. All right. So we're going to scroll down to, and it's all alphabetical, we're going to scroll down to Sweet Tooth Boxes. And when we do that, we're going to see that there is a handbook. Okay. So there's a handbook for this one, and this lets you know what the boxes are supposed to look like and all the various pieces that would be used to make up that particular box. And then it also lets you know what size you need to create that box at if you just want to do the standard box size. Okay, so for this cake box, it says 10.75, so you would type in 10.75 and it will size it to that shape. Okay, so that's where you can figure out what pieces go with what box in the Sweet Tooth Boxes set. There's a lot of handbooks for each of the different cartridges, so if you're ever confused about what size you should make something, go look and see if there's a handbook, and then it should tell you what size that Cricut recommends you cut that project at a minimum. Okay, usually those are the minimum sizes that they think that that project will work best at, and then of course you can certainly adapt it. Now we're going to be working with one of the box shapes and a lid and an insert today. All right, so all the various pieces are in here, and what we're going to be using, we're going to use this for our lid, and we're going to use this one for our box base, and we're going to use this one for an insert. Okay, so I'm going to put those on my mat. You're going to notice that the images come in very small, so you'll need to size it. So I'm going to move these off to the side for the moment. And then what I want to do is, I looked in the cartridge handbook that I just showed you, and it said to start with that box at 10.5 inches. So I'm going to do 10.5 inches, okay? And that's the size that's recommended. However, I know that I want my box to be a little bit bigger than that, because if I line this up with, I'm just looking at my grid here, that box would be 3¼ inches high. Okay, I need it to be about 3.5 inches high. So I am going to do this. I'm going to pick a basic shape. I'm going to bring a square in. I'm going to make that square 3.5 inches. Okay, now what I want to do is lay that square over the top of my image here, and I want to move my box shape by dragging it with the little handlebar until that 3.5 inch box line that I created, the extra one that I created, fits within the lines of the box. And the box will need to fit within that dimension, and then I know that when I fold this box up, the sides, this height of the box is going to be about 3.5. Okay, so now that I have this and I measured my box, and now my box shape is going to be set, then I need to measure my lid. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move that black piece on top of my box shape. This is the lid, and I'm going to just move my lid until my box shape fits inside the score lines. Okay, it could be just a little bit bigger there. Okay, so once I get it so it's going to fit, then this shape will fit on top of this box. Okay, so we're good there, and I'm going to do the same thing. This is the insert that goes inside the box. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and size it so that this is going to fit just within those lines. Now I'm doing this because I wanted this box to be kind of a one-size-fits-all, and I needed to change this. I think these were cupcake boxes, and we're making them into ornament boxes. So always think about reimagining. Okay, so that looks good. That shape looks good. Okay, so these are the 3 pieces that you would need to create a box shape. Okay, to create an ornament box. That's what we're going to use it for. Now, what we want to do though is I want 2 inserts. I want an insert that is tall like this one. See how big these flaps are? But I want an insert that also is going to be shorter. And so how do I make this image shorter? Well, I'm going to use slice. So I'm going to take this image and I'm going to duplicate it. Okay. And now I'm going to take another box shape. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to grab a box. I'm going to make a shape here. And pull this down. And what I want to do is I'm going to move this until it's lined up, so just because it's easier to do it that way. I'm going to move it until the bottom of this line, okay, is lined up here with this line. And what I want to do is I want to cut 1/4 of an inch off of each side of this box. So how am I going to do that? I've grabbed a basic square. I'm going to lay it over the box shape, just like that. Okay, now see how I have this box? So my line was here where the edge of that flap is, and then here is the 1/4 of an inch, and so now I've got my box lined up with that line. Okay, so I'm going to want to highlight both pieces of this and hit slice, but this image has attached lines, score lines on it. You cannot slice an image with the score lines attached, so I'm going to click my box and I'm going to detach the lines. Okay, so don't panic. And then I'm going to put my box back over on the front of this, and then I'm going to highlight my box, and now my slice feature is available to me. Okay, so I'm going to hit slice, and it's going to slice away that one image. Okay, so I'm going to pull these off. There we go. So we've made the box shape 1/4 inch smaller. I'm going to do the same thing. Now my score lines are still here. We're going to attach it back in a minute, but for right now I'm going to move it off of that, and I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch. So here is my big tab, and I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch on this side, and all I'm doing is just reshaping the shape basically. Okay, so I'm just using the slice feature, pulling those away. Do the same thing up here. I can just turn it. That'll make it easier. I'll just turn it. And then I just want to line it up. There we go. Okay, so I'm using my grid line here. I'm just going to turn this around so we get it like that. Oops. Okay, and then I'm going to line this up on the 1/4 inch. I'm just making sure it's lined up evenly. Okay, same thing. I'm going to highlight both of those and then click slice. There we go, and then we have the one tab left here that we need to do, so I'm just going to line it up here and grab this and pull it down to okay. So now what I've done is I've essentially made the original shape 1/4 of an inch smaller by using the slice feature. Now I want to take my score line and I need to reattach it to my box. Okay, so the score lines line up with the corners of the box. Right here you would line the corners of the box up, and then I'm going to click on both of those, and then I'm going to come over to my layers panel and I'm going to attach it again. Okay, so now my score lines are part of my box again. Okay, so that's how I've sized the project. So this will give you an idea of how you could manipulate shapes that are already in Design Space and kind of size them and then make them you know, more fit whatever project that you want to work on, what size that you want to make stuff. So this gives you just a good idea how to do that. All right, so let's move on to making our box. Okay, now that we have the Design Space cut file ready, I wanted to explain the one that I've given you the link for. The one that I gave you the link for, I've color-coded the pieces just so it makes it a little bit easier as you're picking out what materials you want to use. So I've left you a little notation box up here, okay, and this is the green base. So this will be the box base, is the green. The pink is going to be the box top, which is this piece here, and then this is insert number 1, okay, and you can cut that out of the same color. If you're using double-sided cardstock, you can, of course, you know, flip that around after you've cut them out, but we're going to cut this on the same piece. And then the blue equals insert number 2, okay? So that'll be a separate color of card, and it represents a different pattern of cardstock, okay? And then the gray square is going to be your clear plastic or acetate, okay? So that's what we have. So when you go to cut this, what you want to do is we want to hide the dialog box that I created. And so I'm just going to come over here into Design Space, and on the layers panel, I'm going to just click the little eye up here. Where it says attach, where you see where it says the Cricut alphabet and it's got the square and everything, you're just going to click that little eye and it'll hide the dialog box. So when we go to cut, it's not going to show up on our mat. So let's go ahead and go to make it. And the first thing we're going to be cutting is the acetate. Okay, so that is the gray box. And you know you can move this around a little bit if you want. I always move my box in just a little bit away from the red line, just so I can make sure that I get a nice clean edge. And then you will need to make sure that you pick the right material setting. So I am using the Cricut Foil Acetate. So when I go to continue, I need to pick which Cricut machine I'm using, because I have a Maker and an Explorer, and I'm cutting with my Maker today. I need to pick which machine I'm using because I have a Cricut Explorer and a Cricut Maker linked up, so I'm going to pick my Maker, and it'll go through that process. So if you upgraded to a Maker and you still have your Explorer loaded, you'll need to just pick which one you're using. Now, what we're going to be working with is the Cricut Foil Acetate is what I'm using. So I'm going to click Browse. And if you're using, because I'm using a Maker, if you're using the Cricut Explorer, you need to turn the dial to custom settings, and then it'll give you the material setting list. Okay, so we're going to come down here to where it says plastic. Okay, so you just want to scroll down to plastic. And here's plastic, and what I'm going to be using is a foil acetate. Okay, so it's the Cricut brand, so I'm going to click on that. But if you're just using a regular piece of Cricut, any piece of just clear acetate, you could pick the acetate setting, or you could use the cutting mat protector. So a lot of times after your mats get really worn, that plastic lining that goes over the mat, when you're ready to throw your mat away because you've just used it and used it and used it and you can no longer get it sticky again, you can actually cut that clear cover. Okay, and Cricut even has a setting for that. So any of those things would be great to use for this. There's also a plastic packaging setting. So sometimes you know, like the box that some ornaments came in that I bought, the clear ornaments, it was a clear acetate type plastic that they were in. So I saved that plastic and I could cut that to use it for the insert for my box lid. So just to give you some choices here, but you'll find all of that underneath the plastic setting. So like I said, I'm going to be using the foil acetate. So I'm going to click done. And then it will be using just the regular fine tip blade in your machine, and depending upon which of the plastics you're cutting, it's going to make multiple passes to cut it out. Okay, and since I'm working with the foil acetate, I'm also going to show you a tip about the foil acetate, because it does have a clear lining on it that needs to be removed. All right, I'm getting ready to cut my Cricut Foil Acetate, and I'm using a piece from the metallic sampler pack, but it comes in a bunch of different sampler packs with different designs on it in different colors and so forth. But the foil acetate is kind of cool because while it is clear, it also has some type of a pattern on it. And you can see this is a stripe one. You can see here where my hand is. Okay, so I'm using one that's kind of a silvery type stripe. But I wanted to point out to you that these come with a plastic lining on them. Okay, they have a little clear sheet, and I just use my pick tool here. And you can peel this right off. Okay, and you want to do that. Now you can do it before or after you cut it. I'm going to leave mine on and cut it and take it off after I cut my acetate. Okay, and because we're just cutting a square, it doesn't matter which direction because it's the same size. So you want to put it on your Cricut mat. Let me take my liner off. And you're just going to lay it onto your Cricut mat just like you would a piece of paper. Now, and then you really want to push down on this, okay? Because you don't want that plastic, the acrylic acetate, slipping, okay? So you want to make sure you rubbed it down really good, and then you're ready to put it in your Cricut machine. Okay, so now that it has cut out the square, let me show you how I get it off the mat. I like to flip it over, and then I usually have to use my scraper tool to get the very edge of it off. Okay, so I can do that. And then I just want to pull the mat away from my acetate. And like I said, this was almost a brand new blue mat, so it's very sticky. But I just want to peel it off just like that. And then I have my square. Okay, so here is my square. And now I can save this piece because I didn't take the liner off. I know it's not going to scratch the foil on it. So I'm going to set that piece back over with the rest of the pack. And then I want to go in and take off my liner off of this. And you can just scrape the edge. I usually just pick a corner. There we go. I just pick a corner and then just grab that little piece, and then I peel this little liner off of it. Okay, so this is the back of the foil. And there we go. So this piece will be ready for us to put on our box. Okay, so now we're ready to cut out the rest of the box now that we have the foil acetate cut. So we need the other three pieces, mats are going to be cut using the paper. So I want to change my material setting, and I am using the Deluxe Cricut paper, so that's the setting I'm going to pick. And you're going to notice now that it is also asking me to make sure that I have my scoring wheel or scoring stylus. So I'm using the Cricut Maker, so it's going to prompt me to put the scoring wheel in. If you are using the Cricut Explorer, it's going to prompt you to put that scoring stylus in, okay? So it's going to score the piece first, and then it's going to ask you to take that out, and then to then put in your regular fine tip blade, okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that. Put my first piece in. Okay, I want to make sure that you know how to put the scoring stylus and scoring wheel into your Cricut machines. So real quick, this is the Cricut scoring stylus, okay, and it has a metallic end on it, and that is what goes against your paper that's going to score it. And it always goes in the A clamp side of your Cricut machine, and you're going to open up that clamp, and then on the scoring stylus there is a little arrow. Okay, and that little arrow goes pointed down into your scoring stylus, and I always hold this little white piece here, and then I push this down, and when you do that you'll hear it click into your adapter and then close it up, and that's going to secure it into your Cricut machine so that then it will score your project for you. Okay, so that's if you're using the Cricut Explore machines, or you can use it in the Cricut Maker as well. All right, but if you have, and then to remove it I just pull it out, and then I want to close my clamp up. If you have a Cricut Maker machine, you can use the new scoring wheel, and it has that rotary gear on the back of it and a clear plastic cover on the outside. This clear plastic cover stays on there. It does not remove, and the gears is what goes here. So this is where your fine tip blade housing is on your machine, and that's the B side. So you're going to open the B side up and take out your fine tip blade. Okay, so I'm going to set that off to the side, and then where those gears are open on the back of this, that's what I'm going to line up with the gears that are here. And I'm just going to line that up just like this. It just goes right in. I'm going to close that and then close the B clamp, and now my scoring wheel is secure and ready to be used. Now when the Cricut prompts me to change it out again to the fine tip blade, all I have to do is open this up, remove this, put the fine tip blade back in, close the clamp, just as easy as that. Okay, now once it's through scoring, it is going to prompt you to do cut. And so then you're going to remove your scoring stylus or scoring wheel and put your fine tip blade in. Okay, and then you're going to notice it'll say it's detecting the tool, because it's smart, and it's going to look to make sure that you replaced and put the fine tip blade in. And now it's cutting out the material. I like the fact that it lets me know where it is in the cutting process on the screen. Lets me know how much longer I need to wait. And then when it's through cutting, it lets you know it's finished, and you can unload your mat. And it even tells you unload the mat by pressing the unload button. Okay, then we're going to repeat that same process for all of the rest of the cuts, because we're using those on paper. Okay, now when you're working with paper, you want to make sure that you're careful when you remove it from the mat. So if you try to lift this up and peel it off, you're going to get curling on your paper. So what you want to do is flip your mat over. I pretty much recommend this for all material when I take it off the mat. But I'm going to just gently release it from the mat and peel the mat away from the paper, as opposed to peeling the paper away from the mat. And that's going to help prevent your paper from curling up, which there's a lot of little pieces on here, so it's going to take a second. Okay, so now that I've done that, then I can just take that piece off. I'm not going to use it, but I'll set that off to the side. So then my pieces are going to be perfectly flat. They're not going to be curled up. Now that we have all of our pieces cut out, now we're ready to assemble. So you have your clear acetate square, whatever you did. Mine is a foil acetate. So you have your square, and then you have two pieces that we cut out of the same pattern paper. One is going to be the lid, and one is going to be a base. And then you have another base piece. Now these center pieces you don't need to keep. However, I tend to sometimes use them as tags. So I'm just going to set mine off to the side. So this is another base piece. And then this is the actual box piece. Okay, so we're going to start with the box piece. And on there you will find your scoring lines. Now it's going to be hard for you to see it on camera, but you should be able to see it in person. So there's a scoring line right here. And I'm just going to score. I'm just going to fold it back. It's already scored. So I'm going to fold it back. And I always like to, press it down so I get a nice, crisp, sharp edge. There's another scoring line here, so I'm going to fold that down. Okay, and then there's another one here where it's going to create a tab. So we've got that, and then we have another one here on this piece that goes across. Okay, and then we have another one here on this tab. So we're going to fold that one down. Okay, and then we have a scoring line here, so we're going to fold that, and you can start seeing your box shape kind of come to life here. I like to make sure I have a nice crisp line. And then same thing here, there's another tab here, so we're going to fold that one. Okay, and then there's another one here. Okay, so we're going to, last one, we're going to fold that down. Okay, so now you have all of your edges are folded over, and this is going to be the inside of your box, and you have tabs on three of these pieces. There's tabs, okay, and this is the inside. So we're going to flip it back over to the outside, and we're going to add some adhesive where those tabs are. So that's where your score tape comes in. Now I'm using score tape that is, I love this because I don't have to get my scissors out. I can just place it on there exactly where I need it, and then just pull it off. And let me show you what I've done. I put a double line of score tape here, okay, and then it has a wax lining, so I'm just going to rub that down really well, and then I'm going to move on. I'm going to do that on all of the tabs, okay. Now I like the 1/4 inch because this one gives me the most flexibility for most of the projects that I work on when I put the boxes together. And it does come in 1/2 inch, and it also comes in 3/4 and 1 inch. So depending upon the size of your projects, you can get different size score tape. But if I need more than a 1/4 inch, I can just put another line down like I am here. Okay, so we've got on this tab we have some, on this tab, and then the final tab we also need it there. So you're putting this on the outside pattern for your box. Okay, so now that you've got that down, then what I want you to do is we're going to take off that liner. Okay, so it's just a plastic waxy liner. We're going to take that off. Okay, and then on that first tab, you're going to fold it in, and you want to match your box sides together like this, okay? And then I just run my finger along the inside edge to get it to seal, okay? So we're going to do that on all of the sides here. And I just line it up. Okay, so we've got nice clean lines. I'm going to do the same thing on all the tabs. Get that last little piece off here. The liner doesn't want to come off. Okay, so then we're going to get that last little liner off. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on this one. Match the edges of the box up. Okay, and this is the very last tab, so we're going to do that. There again, you're lining the edges of it up with the sides of your box. Okay, so when you're finished, you have a completed box shape. Okay, so here is my box. So there we go. So we got the box done. Now what we want to do is we're going to work on the insert pieces. So the insert pieces we don't use adhesive on. You're just going to fold in along the score lines for these pieces. Okay. All right, and they're going to set in your box like this. Now, depending upon which size ornament you're using, you would use one of the inserts. You don't put both in there. So this is the shorter side. Let me fold this one over. So this one is, when I fold this one over, I'm just folding along all four of the score lines. Okay. So when I fold this one over, see how much higher this one sits up than this one? Let me show you this way, okay? So one of them has big tabs on it and one of them has small tabs on it. Depending upon the size of your ornament, you're going to pick which insert you want to put in. So if I want to put a small ornament in, and the insert just sits down in the inside of your box, just like that, okay? And if I want to put a small ornament in, I can just set it in here, okay? I can even set this bigger ball in like this, okay? So you could use one with the higher side. If you're going to put the big 4-inch in, you need to use the flatter one, and then this will lay in just like this. Okay, so it'll fit all of these various sizes of the ornaments depending upon which of the two insert pieces you decide to use. All right, that's why it's a one size fits all. And then we need to put the lid on. So the lid also, we need to fold all the sides, and there are tabs on each end of those side pieces. Okay, so you've got tabs here, and then you're going to fold along the crease line. So the two long sides have tabs and the two short sides do not. So we're just going to fold this in just like this. Okay, now once I've got this folded, then I want to go ahead and put my acetate piece inside. So this is the outside pattern that I'm using. So I'm going to flip it over, and here's my cutout, and I want to go back to where I have my acetate piece that I'm going to use, and it's going to go right here. Okay, so it goes on the inside of your box lid. And all I'm going to do is I am going to line, I'm going to line the outside edge of my acetate with some of the score tape. And this is what's going to get it to stick on the inside of your box, and it's going to stay secured. And we're not going to see this because it's going to be on the inside of the lid. Okay, so then I'm just going to peel that off. Peel off the liner all the way around. Okay, so now you can see I've got that tape just around the edges, and then I can take my lid piece, and this is going to go right over where the cutout design is, and then I'm just going to push this down. Okay, there's a lot of great boxes in Design Space that have cutouts, and this is what you would do to, you know, cover that hole so that things don't pop out. But now we have a nice little cover. You can still see through it. It's got a little decorative element with that foil acetate, or you can use a clear piece, whatever you prefer. And now we want to put the edges together of our box. Okay, so the little tabs here and here are where we're going to put our adhesive. So I'm just going to put a couple of little strips like that on each of those little folded over tabs. So there's 4 of them for the 4 corners. All right, so make sure those are on there good, and then you just need to start removing the tape off of one side of the tab, and then that tab's going to fold in just like we did the sides of the box, and you're going to make the edges match. Okay, so super easy. Okay, I'm just going to do the last two tabs here. And then we're going to have our lid ready to put on our ornament box. Okay, so now we've got the lid is finished. And let's say we're going to put, maybe you did a round ball ornament. I'm just going to set that in there. We're going to put our lid on. And now we have our ornament. It's secure in our box. You could tie some ribbon over the top if you want. If you want to change out the liner piece, you can certainly do that. And they just slip in. You don't secure them, you can remove them. Okay, and then even our 4-inch big one fits in the box. I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you have a lot of fun decorating the boxes. You could certainly, you know, make these out of cardstock if you want, or pattern paper. I really like the Cricut Deluxe cardstock because it holds up really well. And have a lot of fun with your ornament boxes.